Welcome back. I've got Ron Alvesteffer on the line. Ron, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you today?
I am great. Service Express. When you hear that name, you think of a lot of things, but there's so much more to what you do in this organization when it comes to leadership and bringing up leaders within your organization so they can be leaders. So tell us a little bit about the organization, your background, and this awesome work that you do.
Yeah, thanks. Service Express, we used to joke when we first, I've been here 23 years. It'll be 23 years in August. And so when I joined, I was the 15th employee. We were less than $3 million in revenue and had 4 locations. Currently we're 550 some employees, over 50 locations, and over 140 million in revenue. So it's grown quite a bit. And in the early days, people used to think we're a delivery company or, really the name around Service Express, but we're a third-party maintenance provider. We work on and fix high-end hardware in large corporate data centers. So servers, storage, networking gear for large companies in healthcare, financial, manufacturing, really anybody with a data center. So we focus on it. So we sell service contracts. So when their hardware breaks, it's hardware only. They call us. We dispatch an engineer with parts to fix the problem and get them up and running. And we're based in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is where I'm out of. Over 50 locations, as I've mentioned. And really, I think the thing for us that you and I will probably get into is the fact that we've built our number one strategy and our number one differentiator as a company is building around our people and creating a great culture where people can do great work, be recognized and rewarded for it, achieve their goals. And that is what powers Service Express forward.
And it also creates the opportunity for growth like you've had, because when you have a team of great people and they know that their organization is behind them and they rally around each other to do the great work for your clients, those are the ingredients you need for an organization to grow. And for an organization like yours, you said you were employee number 15, and now look at you. And for a lot of people that don't understand how crucial data centers are, the technology that we're using right now is based off some computer somewhere, a series of computers in data centers all across the globe. And it's 99.999% uptime type of deal. And much like emergency doctors, IT work, if something goes down, everyone freaks out. I remember back in the 90s, if something went down, okay, we're going to have downtime. All right, we fix it. We get as quick as possible.
Yeah.
It's so rare now for downtime to last very long at all because of the technology and people like you that are out there that are going, oh, there's a fire. We need to put this out. I mean, that's a bad term. Hopefully your data centers never experience any of those.
Right.
But it's one of those things, you jump on it like a grenade and you take it and you get it fixed and back up and running, and people won't even know anything happened. So what's some of the strategies that you've used in your organization to create this culture that you have that's created this amazing organization?
Yeah, you're right. And we talk about uptime and right now and during this time of COVID, with so many people working from home and relying on Zoom technology and everything else, it's been more important than ever to make sure that everything is running smoothly in that area. And so, some of the tools that we use, it's interesting because culture, and I was just talking about this with some people with on our team, is culture gets so misused and misunderstood, is my opinion, and it's such a cliche word it's turned into some ways, and people throw that out. And I hear all kinds of definitions around culture, and some there's a lot of things around parties and potlucks when we could all get together and bring kids to work, and ping pong table, which we have, and all these things, or have my team over on a Sunday for beers, and all that stuff happens, but that's not culture. That's part of having fun, and that's part of making connection, and we do that, and it's important. But if that's all you're doing, then that's not culture. Like I say, if that's all you're doing, then you're just goofing off, right? Culture is really hard. Culture to us means I know the work that I do matters. I know the value I bring to the organization. The organization knows the value I bring that's shared with me, and I'm recognized and rewarded and promoted for that value. It gives purpose to people when they're in an organization. That to me is culture. The other stuff is, the icing on the cake, the fun stuff that goes with it. And we do all that and we have fun. And so for us, we use a tool that we call the SR5, which stands for scorecards, ROIs, and 515s. And it's really a way of measuring our KPIs from a scorecard level, which is company-wide, 8 to 12 measures, key measures that we look at monthly, and we look at trends. It's scorecards for each department, and then drill down to each region and to each office, right? And then ROI is an individual job description that every employee in the company uses, including me. And it stands for responsibilities, objectives, and indicators. And it's really a measurable job description that says, what am I trying to accomplish in my position? And it's measurable, and I fill it out monthly, and I review it with my leader every month, right? So we're always tracking progress, always looking at performance. And then a 515 is a tool that we update quarterly, and it really lists my goals and my priorities and my action items for the next 90 days. And it's not a to-do list. It's a big, it should be like 8 to 10 probably on there. And every employee does a 515, again, including me. They're on their company intranet, so every employee can see my 515. I can see everybody else's, same with my ROIs. And you share that with your leader every quarter. So you're aligned going in. We just did this, like we're going through it right now. We're aligned going into the third quarter of what are the expectations and what are the priorities I'm working on in my position that I'm aligned with my leader. And if we don't have alignment, I review with my team, my executives share those with me. And sometimes hey, I think we should add this. This is something I think we need to be working on in the third quarter. And maybe in place of that, or we add on to it. But we align early, as opposed to at the end of it, look at all that I did. And I thought, oh man, I thought you knew. We're in that meeting. I thought you understood. We had this priority. Like if you do it at the end of the quarter, it's too late. We align early. And so it really sets up this tool where the whole company and every employee in the organization is taking this step forward every month, every quarter, aligned through key company and department KPIs, which roll down to individual ROIs, which roll down to my action items. And that's how we create alignment and focus going forward. And that's how employees know, hey, here's the value I bring, because I know the company objectives. I know what my goals are. I know how they fit into my team. Therefore, the company, I matter, all right? And that creates purpose. That creates engagement. That creates the results that we've had over time.
It's an amazing system, and it has served you well. And I know, and we'll definitely dive into this.
Yeah.
Having that system at the beginning of this pandemic was critical for your organization, because then you can say, where do we have to pivot? Where do we have to accelerate on some things? Where do we have to maybe take that particular endeavor and put it a little bit further down the list based on what your client needs are? And if you didn't have that system, you'd be scrambling around like so many other organizations going, how do we work remotely? What's Zoom? All these things that so many organizations had to figure out over the spring months.
Yeah.
And another thing real quick is, I love the fact that it's all open for everybody to see. So that way everyone knows what everybody's working on, instead of what's Cheryl working on, what's Dylan working on, there's none of that. It's there. Everyone should know what's going on. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you navigated the pandemic start, and anything that you had to kind of change or pivot early on.
Yeah, no, you've nailed it. And on your last point there, that transparency also allows us to say, hey, I see what you're working on. How can I help? Or how does what I'm doing flow into your work to help you? Or is one department, the way they're doing work, hindering another department for what they're trying to achieve? And that we get into those situations. I mean, it happens. Leaders talk, teams talk. How do we work together? What do you need from us, and adjust so that we're all working together and everything's flowing through? And so that is the beauty of it. It's transparent. People know what's going on, and they like that and appreciate that, especially now to your first point around COVID, right? Around what's going on in the company. And as we transitioned home in March. Our KPIs, in the scorecard, this SR5 system has been tremendous for us because we started looking at our business on a really a daily and weekly basis. I was huddling every day with my executive team when this all started. Every Monday, we were looking at our weekly KPIs from the previous week on some core numbers that we wanted to pay attention to. And we'd never looked at the business really on a weekly basis. It'd really been more of a monthly. And the great thing was, is we said, here's the things that we need to look at. The system was all in place. So that was great. It was just a matter of pulling the data, putting it together, and we'd share it. Monday morning, we'd look at key things, service calls that we were taking, cash that we were collecting to make sure that we could, we're serving our customers during this time, that we're collecting cash so we could pay everything and stay in business. We were monitoring number of new meetings set as we kept trying to get in front of customers during this time, because we deliver a service that reduces operational expense. So you can imagine during this time, as people are looking like we've got to reduce costs, we can do that along with the highest rated customer rating in our industry. So we're looking at all of these things on a weekly basis, and it was tremendous. And our whole mantra that time was keep small problems small. And that's my view on that, running the company, customer service. You keep small issues small. You overreact to them in a sense that you fix them quickly, because if they start, small issues are small until they start to build up. And they might not even be the same issue, but a number of small issues build up, becomes one big issue, whether it's to the company or to the customer. And so we were looking at that. It helped us a lot. I was doing weekly, I would record, like I do my blogs on my iPhone, just at my desk, a weekly company update. Instead of sending an email out to everybody, I wanted them to see me, hear me, and I would say, here's what's going on in the company, what's happening right now. And we really got great feedback on doing that. Now as we've transitioned in for about the past month, we huddle twice a week, usually, instead of every day. We're still looking at the weekly KPIs, and my weekly updates have gone to every other week now. So I think that's been a sign of progress, kind of where we're coming through. We've been measuring everything so much, we feel like we know what path we're on. We're still staying close, but we don't have to stay as close as we used to. And so all of that's been tremendous. And the feedback from our employees is, man, they appreciated it. They understood. And, I wanted to give them a sense of relief, because we sent them all home and hey, first of all, we care about your health, number one. Then we got to figure out how to serve our customers, because they're relying on us and they're all home. They need their systems up and running, so we have to serve them. And to let them know, look, we're not laying anybody off. In fact, we're still going to grow, not at the rate that we thought we were going to pre-COVID, but we're still growing. In fact, we're still hiring. We've been able to hire and onboard during this time over 50 employees who haven't even stepped. It's amazing. Haven't even stepped foot in a Service Express office. If you'd have told me we were going to do this 6 months ago, I'd have thought, no way. And we did it. And it's a testament to our people. So all of that really worked together to give everybody, a sense of calm, a sense of understanding where we're at and what we need to do to move forward together.
I'm a big fan of disaster recovery and planning, and I love they keep small things small, because they can snowball to the point where you have this huge problem,
right?
And then you don't know where to look first. You're like, well, where's the core of this? And that's you can't find it because there's just so much there, and as an organization, it can paralyze you. And the fact that you're still hiring, you're onboarding people, and as an organization, you pivoted and you're like, okay, I'm hiring people, and they're working for us, and they've never set foot in our property.
Yes.
Yeah. Most of us would be like, are you kidding? Why? That's not our model. But again, you had a system in place of onboarding people. You say, okay, how do I onboard somebody that I can't physically see across from a table? Well, I can see them on the screen. I can be on the phone. We can figure out those things and pivot and be agile in all of this. And it demonstrates that because you had that foundation there and ready to go. So this is an organization that can withstand a pandemic. I mean, that's pretty bad, come on, let's think about this. And I'm originally from Michigan. I know what's going on there. My mom and my brother live there. I know what's going on in that state. And to be able to be a shining star during this pandemic, it just screams volumes of of how amazing, you know, the work that you put into it, because I know implementing a system like this has taken time and
Yes.
it's constantly being tweaked. But the
Hmm.
fact that you were able to pull the information you needed out of the system without a whole lot of modifications, as if it was designed for this, and that's the beautiful thing by this is you've designed this system where you're like, okay, well, we're in the middle of a pandemic, we got to see what we're doing,
Yeah.
revenue wise, service wise, what's going on, how are we able to support our clients even though we're not physically here. You're still keeping your clients and taking on new clients as well, because the point you said about organizations needing to cut costs. Well, if they're doing all their IT in-house, for example, and all of a sudden they're like, oh wow, that's a big expenditure for us, we need to offset that. And many times they may not have been able to get into their office for some reason. If there was some kind of a prevention to be able to easily access their building, for example, now that's not an issue, and their customers are being served by them because of organizations like yours that laid the way and laid the path of how to do things the right way.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So much has changed so quickly in the past 4 months. Of what we thought we could do and would do has changed dramatically. And like I said, if you'd have told me, in January, even the beginning of this year, that we would hire and onboard and have people producing who never stepped foot in an office here, would be strictly working from home, I'd have thought, no way. And we pivoted and we did it quickly. And that's really just a testimony to our people. It really is. I mean, just when you get the right people on board, they make all the difference in the world. The right people find solutions and solve every problem. The wrong people find every problem in any solution that you present. But we use a hashtag people powered. I always tell our people, it's not just a hashtag. It's a hashtag for a reason, because we truly are. And I think COVID is like a lot of things that come up unexpectedly and challenges. It really shines a light on who's all in and who's not. And we just have tremendous teams around here that really stepped up and did great things here. And I've told them, they've been an inspiration to me. They've kept me going on some of these days. Not every day is at the highlight reel, and I have a lot of energy, but hey, I have my days down too, where just like, man, I'm just frustrated that we're in this position, things are going on, and I'm watching how our teams are performing, how they're rallying and just making things happen. Looking at those KPIs that tell me all of that. And, it inspires me to do it. And it's funny. We used to talk about being recession proof because during the financial crisis, 2008 and 9, we still grew double digits and showed that we could go through there and continue to grow. And now the new thing is, are you pandemic proof? And you made a great point. We didn't set out to be pandemic proof, but these tools have allowed us to come through this, up to this point, and I think will help us come through it and beyond to be pandemic proof. And so while everything's changing and strategies are changing, we're working from home and doing things differently, core things are not changing. Our SR5 system doesn't change. It helps us through that. Our core value of helping our employees achieve their personal, professional, and financial goals through Service Express, that doesn't change. In fact, those are the foundations of what we're building upon and using to go through this. And I think they're more important than ever. Now, culture may look different as we're not all together and we're doing Zoom calls, but it's still important. It's still, I know the work that I do matters. I know the value I bring. The company knows it. I'm recognized and rewarded for that, and we're all working together to figure this out and serve our customers. And so a lot of things change, but the core foundation does not change. Helps you right through it.
And it speaks volumes to why you're able to continue to do the things that you're doing and growing and serving your customers. And again, and this is, for everybody that's watching and listening to this is an opportunity for your organization to set up its infrastructure the right way.
Yeah.
And use Ron's model as a template, because I don't want to say it runs itself. It requires people to do it, but people that care and buy into the mission of the organization and feel that they are being taken care of. The fact that you sent everybody home, and so many organizations sent their people home, and they sent them, well, hopefully the stimulus check comes soon, and they didn't even give it a shot to even try to figure out how to do things, where your organization said, nope, we're going to continue to run business. We're going to figure out how to do this.
Right.
And not only are we going to keep everybody, we're bringing more people on. That's amazing. And there's so many opportunities for organizations that could have done that, and unfortunately they didn't. So for those organizations that didn't do that, what's some advice for the other organizations that are kind of fumbling around right now with this? What, and obviously these systems are work, but how would they get started? What would be some tips to at least get them started on rolling out a system similar to what you have there, so they can be successful and quite frankly, pandemic proof?
Yeah. So it's interesting. One is there's still time if you haven't done some of these things during the pandemic. Unfortunately we're still in the middle of it. The majority are still working from home, and so we use the term early is to look like. And I have my Rocky poster behind me. I'm a huge Rocky fan, and we use the term counterpunch. How do we counterpunch the pandemic? Like, okay, it's happened to us, but what's our counter move to it? There's going to be opportunities. We just got to look for it. And find them and seize them. And in some ways, you're sort of flying under the umbrella of COVID of, expectations from the beginning of the year and goals are sort of out the window. It's what can we achieve now? And so I look at that and go like, okay, so what were the things we wanted to do? And let's just go to work on, and what can we do? So we started out like training, so much training, virtual training. We'd had it on a goals list that we knew we wanted to do more online, more virtual training using technology instead of flying people around and going to training classes all the time. And we did that in like 2 weeks because you just had to, right? And so what are those moves to counterpunch, or the things you've been thinking you should do? My advice, first of all, would be like, start doing that stuff. Start getting after it. As it comes to implementing a system like our SR5, I would just say, sometimes people overanalyze. They want to spend so much time trying to figure out what should we analyze, what shouldn't, what are the right goals, what are the right metrics. I'm a big believer of, man, just, whiteboard it. And this is how we did it. We whiteboarded it. We might start with 50 items. We pretty quickly came down to like 8 items and so said, let's just start there. I'm a big believer in start. Like, you probably know, most people in their business probably know within their departments or their company or whatever, their organization, what are the key things that matter most? Just start there. You don't have to agree on it. Start measuring it. I'm a big believer in pick a goal. I'm kind of like, how do you know what you're achieving if you're not measuring it against something? So, and I get this internally all the time. Well, we don't know the goal. It's something new, or we don't know. We've never. All right. Well, what do you think? Pick something, and look at, if you're crushing it, then that probably you need to up the goal. But that led you to knowing that. So then adjust it. If you're never hitting it, try to figure out why. If the goal is way too high, okay, you can adjust that down if you need to. But the idea is you have to measure against something, or there's no way to tell if you're achieving. So I'm big into just get started, take action, and then figure it out from there. Because if you sit around and try to whiteboard this till it's perfect, nothing's ever perfect. So get going with it. Communicate with your team, engage and involve them, get their feedback, start reviewing it. And then the last thing I'll always say, so this is interesting. So I'm super number driven, right? And I'm not an econ guy. I'm not a finance guy. I'm more of a Moneyball guy, right? I collected baseball cards and football kids growing up. I like stats. Used to keep stats at the elementary school. We'd have pick up baseball games. We'd keep our batting average. And I think that's how I learned to add, subtract, multiply, and do all that. So I'm more like Moneyball guy. And people sometimes will ask, man, you measure everything and you're so about the numbers. How does that create a great culture? Because other organizations they've come from, when you're all about the numbers, you treated people like a number. And so the big thing for us is measure everything, see what's working. If it's not working, the first thing I say is stop and look for the story behind the numbers. I think the difference is when people just see a number, it's not where they thought it was, and so they make a rash reaction or decision or a cut, which is typically what happens based on a number being wrong. That's when people feel treated like a number and not a person. It's like, stop and look behind the numbers. What's really happening? Might be something that we're doing. We talked about processes and systems and working together. Might be something we're doing to hinder those numbers from happening, that we have the right people, but we have to fix that. Because the theory is, if you surround yourself with the right people and you're still not hitting your goals, you probably have a system problem. And I think a lot of leaders in companies kind of get the ego in the way and they don't want to admit that. Where we're like, run right towards that problem, figure it out, and let's fix the system. Because it's great people times great systems equal the best results, in my opinion and experience, and allow to help you to scale forward like we have from 15 employees to 550 and 4 locations to 50. It allows us to scale by doing that. And so that, back to how do people understand their value, using the numbers, teaching it, showing it, being transparent, that's part of creating a great culture.
That's amazing. And it's funny you mentioned baseball cards. This is a baseball card of Jerry Rice, 1977,
Yeah.
when he was with Pittsburgh. Reason why I have this card is in 1977 in Luther, Michigan, just down the street from my grandmother's cabin, I went to the general store, and for the first time I bought a pack of baseball cards. And this was the first card that I got out of the pack. And I looked at the back of it and I saw the numbers and I was like, how do they get to those numbers? So I figured it out. I didn't have a computer in 1977.
Right.
I figured out batting average. I figured out ERA.
Yeah.
You know, the new stats that they do in baseball now, obviously they have to use computers to calculate some of that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like the stats is, tells you everything, and so when you mentioned the baseball card thing, I was like, oh yeah. So I keep this because it's a reminder, because it launched my original career was public accounting. So, and the reason why I did that is because I love this stuff, but I'm also a stats guy when it comes to how can you make things better? What are some things? The numbers are there. You just have to look at it in the right way and figure it out. So it's amazing. Ron, I've loved our conversation today. Where can people find out more about you and this incredible work that you're doing?
Yeah, thank you. I've enjoyed it as well. I love talking with like-minded people who get it. I equate it to when musicians get together and have a jam session with their instruments, talking about culture and building great organizations and investing in people with somebody who understands that and gets it. This is my kind of jam session. So thank you, Michael, for having me. Yeah, serviceexpress.com. We're also Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can find us. And I also have a personal page where I share my thoughts on leadership and growth and scaling companies at ronalvesteffer.com, and have a Instagram and Facebook page as well. So we're out there for people to find us, and we love to connect with people and hear their ideas and thoughts on what they're doing and how they're doing it. So if you're out there listening, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And we are still hiring. So if you're interested in a company like ours in any kind of position, let us know.
That's awesome. And I'll have all that information in the show notes. Ron, great to connect with you again. Continue being well and continue doing that awesome work out in Grand Rapids.
Thank you. Great connect with you as well. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy, okay?
Likewise.